Hey everyone, and welcome back to this class. So in this lecture, I'm going to talk about this idea that anyone can succeed in this course. This lecture is designed to be a brief, rapid-fire set of important tips and tricks for getting the most out of this course. Now, you might watch this lecture and ask, who is this crazy guy and how did he come up with these crazy rules? The key is to remember that I have been at this for years, so I have seen firsthand the problems that some students have. It's important to remember that this course is for everyone, even though you never get to see the thousands of fellow peers that you have in this course. So I ask that you be kind, compassionate, and understanding. Know that, although some of these guidelines may seem like common sense to you, for many others, they are not. In fact, many students who believe that they are too smart for these guidelines can often be found making at least one of the mistakes I mentioned in this lecture. First, let me give you some context for this lecture. Previously, I called this lecture How to Succeed in This Course. It consisted of a set of guidelines, which I will repeat in this lecture, but I found that, despite having those guidelines, a subset of students still did not follow them. Some students interpreted those guidelines as telling them what to do, and I suppose those students must have been rebellious teenagers because they did not like being told what to do. So let me be clear, these tips and guidelines are not commands telling you what to do. It is always your choice whether or not you want to follow these tips and guidelines. I will say that based on over 10 years of teaching experience, those who follow these tips tend to succeed, whereas those who do not follow these tips tend not to succeed. That's why I don't want to say how to succeed in this course, because I'm not telling you how to behave. I'm telling you statistically what I've observed to be true. You can decide whether you want to be a positive statistic or a negative statistic. What I am saying is that anyone, including yourself, can make the decision to follow the tips for success, and ultimately realize that in the end, whether you succeed or not, the decision was yours and yours alone. Okay, so very quickly, what were my 3 tips for how to succeed in this course? Number 1, use the Q&A. If you don't know how to use the Q&A, or there is no Q&A on your platform, please use forum.lazyprogrammer.me. Number 2, meet the prerequisites for this course. In addition to being listed twice in the course description, you're getting a reminder now, and several other reminders throughout the course. I hope that this is a sufficient number of reminders. If you have any questions about the prerequisites, go back to number 1, which is to use the Q&A. Number 3, code by yourself. Every time you see code in these videos, that is a sign that you should be coding and exercising your coding skills. I may or I may not remind you to code. It is up to you to follow through. For more information, please see the lecture How to Code by Yourself in the FAQ. In addition, you can also find the longer and more detailed version of this lecture, called How to Succeed in This Course, in the FAQ as well. Okay, so here's some more tips. First of all, the prerequisites are not a showstopper. They are there to inform you. They are not a judgment on your intelligence. You are not being scolded for not meeting the prerequisites. The prerequisites are simply third-party information. It's basically saying topic B depends on topic A. So if you don't understand topic A, then you might have some trouble with topic B. Given that I didn't invent topic A, nor topic B, this dependency isn't my invention either. I'm simply informing you of this relationship. What you can do with this information is use it to your advantage. If, for example, you realize you are having trouble with the topics in this course, that is a strong sign that you need to revisit the prerequisites. Luckily, since I've told you what the prerequisites are, this should be easy. So I hope you understand this idea. The prerequisite list is information for you to use. Stop trying to be perfect. It's okay to backtrack and learn the prerequisites as needed. That is why you've been provided with this information. Anyone can succeed in this course because anyone can follow the process I've just described. Next tip. Just because you use the Q&A, this does not imply that your question will be answered in the way that you expect. Of course, if you knew the answer, you wouldn't be asking the question to begin with. so it may even make sense for the answer to be surprising. If you ask for help with your homework, with an interview, or with your personal work, as an internal policy, I cannot respond. I will only discuss matters directly concerning the theory, code, and data contained within this course. If you ask about something which was explained in a previous lecture, I'm going to gently explain to you which lecture or which section you can find the answer, but I will not repeat what I've said in the lectures, since obviously the lecture itself is superior. Next tip. Those who don't want to ask questions because they don't know what question to ask are exactly the people who should be asking questions. You see, in order to ask a question, you have to think. This thinking is part of your homework. In fact, based on my own experience, simply thinking of how to ask your question often leads you to the answer or close to it, which obviously helps you. Next tip. Realize that machine learning is all about math and programming. If you do not like math or you do not like programming, you are most definitely in the wrong place. Now, where do people get this crazy idea that machine learning is not about math or programming? Well, unfortunately, a lot of marketers and fake data scientists have been creating online courses claiming to be about machine learning. These courses are typically filled with a lot of talk about how awesome or cool or powerful a subject is, followed by half the course being about basic Python, followed by how to use the scikit-learn API. Remarkably, they don't do any math or any real coding. Guys, I teach that stuff for free. You can spend 15 minutes reading the scikit-learn documentation and learn the same thing for free. Now, the reason I mention this is to warn the victims of these courses. These courses did not prepare you to apply machine learning in the real world, nor did they prepare you for a career in machine learning, nor did they prepare you to even learn about machine learning. These courses may have given you a lot of confidence, but I hope that you can realize that confidence without corresponding ability is not useful. Here's a page from one of the most famous machine learning books, written by Christopher Bishop. I don't think any sane person with any level of common sense would claim that this well-regarded machine learning book has too much math. This is what machine learning is, whether you agree or not. Next tip. I realize that not everyone wants to become a master in machine learning and study it 8 hours a day. You have jobs, you have families, you have other hobbies. And that is totally fine. However, realize your limitations. If you don't study as hard as someone else, then how can you expect to achieve the same result? You should expect your skill to increase with the time that you invest. On the other hand, don't be surprised when the time that you need to invest is greater than what you expected. Everyone is different. Some learn fast and some learn less fast. Some of this course may be a good fit for your level of study, and some of it may not. But be okay with that. If parts of the course are too advanced for your current background, simply accept it and move on. However, note that the course has been specifically designed to best fit those who meet the prerequisites. Next tip. Please understand that just because you think you meet the prerequisites, this is not necessarily true. Let's be honest, not everyone was an A+ student. Not everyone remembers everything they learned. For example, you might have forgotten some basic concept in calculus or some basic concept in probability, or maybe you didn't understand those concepts in the first place. Again, be honest with yourself. If this is the case for you, we have to go back to guideline number 1, which is to use the Q&A. Next tip. Some students may find that I speak too slowly. Other students may find that I speak too quickly. I would err on the side of slow, since your fellow students come from all around the world, and English may not be their first language. However, this is easily rectified by using the speed changer. Personally, I like to watch my own lectures at 2x speed. You may find that this is optimal for you as well. Next tip. Take notes. Even better, take handwritten notes. This builds a mind-muscle connection. Many of my courses contain in-depth content, and generally speaking, I do not repeat myself. You are not a robot, so you will forget things. I can't anticipate what you will forget, since I can't read your mind. And therefore, you should not expect me to remind you of things exactly when you forget them. Thus, taking notes is the obvious and logical solution to this limitation. Next tip. Beginner and expert is a false dichotomy. These words have no meaning in this course because you, the students, don't even agree on what these words mean. Students often use the term beginner as an excuse for not meeting the prerequisites. But by that definition, there should be no beginners in this course because if you do not meet the prerequisites, then you should be doing your best to fix this. If you saw the words beginner or expert or all levels somewhere on this website, recognize that these are just superficial descriptors. The only thing that matters is that you meet the prerequisites. This course does not conform to your personal definition of beginner or expert. Next tip. If you have a PhD, don't use it as an excuse not to follow these tips. Some students will say, I have a PhD, therefore I don't have to follow any instructions. Of course, this is not true. I have seen people without any formal training have lots of success, and I've seen people with PhDs have zero success. Why? Because it all comes down to following instructions. All of my courses can be understood at approximately the undergraduate level. Some of the content is a bit more advanced, but none of it requires you to have a PhD. And that's why it really makes sense to say that anyone can succeed in this course. It doesn't matter if you have formal training. It especially doesn't matter if you have a PhD. All that matters is that you follow the instructions. And as you've seen, these are just 3 very simple guidelines that anyone can follow. This is, in my opinion, simply great news. If anyone can succeed, that includes you. The only way that you cannot succeed is if you choose not to. Therefore, I hope you make the choice that you want to succeed and consequently will follow the guidelines for how to succeed. Again, I want to reiterate that this is excellent news. I can't decide one day that I want to be an Olympic swimmer. I can't choose this for myself. It requires good genetics and specialized training to be an Olympic swimmer. On the other hand, in this course, you can choose to succeed. You don't have to be fast, strong, or talented. There's no national training center reserved for only elite athletes. Simply following the instructions and doing the work is sufficient.